Well, good morning, senior home business family. Matt and Brittney are here doing real talk today, talking about assisted living. And we started a new format last week, and we had some feedback of people that really enjoyed the format. So instead of doing an official teaching and all that kind of stuff, we're just going to just talk assisted living, talk senior placement. But Brittney, talk about your business, my business, things that we see, things we hear. And it's just so important to be in this industry, you guys. If you are contemplating on doing something, working out of your house and helping seniors, or just working out of your house and making a good amount of money, you can check out the Senior Placement Institute webinar down below. But ultimately, you've got to be inundated and immersed in this industry. You've really got to know what you're talking about. And so the Senior Placement Institute is all about that to get you started. And then it's an ongoing educational process. It really is. It's day to day. Things just change. We're going to show you an alarming situation happened in my own state just the other day. I'll pull that up on the screen. We're going to talk about other different things. So Brittney, welcome. Glad you're here. I know you're super busy, and we all are. I got a text just yesterday. Hopefully she's not listening. It's a good story, but at the beginning it was kind of weird. I get a text from one of our students, and she says, "Hey Matt, have you sent me the check yet?" And I'm like, who did I forget to send a check to? So I'm looking, and of course I don't have all my students obviously on my phone, so it just comes up a phone number. So I cross-reference in our community, and I got her name. I won't say her name on live, but I said so and so. Money? What check you looking for? She goes, yeah, when I met with your mom. And I'm like, when did she meet my mom? My mom was like 2,500 miles away. It was a confusion. It was a confusing thing because she was actually waiting for a check from a community, and the guy that was helping her get that check was named Matt. But she's doing 3-4 move-ins a month. She's killing it. And she was working hospice prior to this, and she just absolutely loves the senior community. She loves what she's doing, and it's just so exciting. So I won't say your name on live, but if you come across, you hear this, I really appreciate you. Even though you text me for a check, I appreciate you sharing what was going on in your business. And there's a lot of our students that are experiencing success, and there's a lot of students that probably not are that successful, I don't think. And there's various reasons for that, Brittney. I think some of them, they go all in at the beginning, and they give it maybe a month or two, and they face resistance. And when they face resistance, they go, it must not work, or it's me, or a litany of excuses will come up, and they just quit. What's your thoughts on that?
Agreed. Yeah, I think like we always talk about consistency. They have a lot of good traction in the beginning, and then a few no's or a few objections or just a few hurdles that they have to overcome. Or maybe the hurdle might just be their phone's not ringing off the hook in the first couple of weeks. It does, I think, create like this. They kind of backtrack a little bit on what their mission was. They forget why they're doing what they do beyond the financial piece of it, but helping seniors and their families. So my employee today actually gave me another good little nugget. She comes from real estate, and she's like, I was always told, don't be a silent agent. Don't expect, she said it would blow her mind when new agents would come on similar to senior placement.
Yeah.
They would say they're a real estate agent, and they're like, where's everybody at? Why is my phone not ringing? Why aren't I getting, new clients? And so she made a comment that really stuck with me today is like, don't be a silent agent. Get out there and make sure you're getting out there consistently.
Yeah, definitely. And someone was on live just yesterday that I love talking about. Again, I won't say their name, but it's just they started off slow. And honestly, I didn't think they were going to make it. And today they're killing it. And I was sharing with the group last night that some of this, I think, Brittney, your superpower, beyond that you're talented and gifted and do the things that are right in this business, I think a lot of our success can stem on longevity. Like when I started my business in 18, I think you started yours in 19. Is that right? So we've been going at this for quite some time. We were talking about last night how we're seeing senior placement agents kind of, more and more senior placement agents come, but more and more leave. And it's kind of like in the real estate world, they want the taste. They kind of envision the commission. They envision something happening like, oh man, this is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to get paid. And when they start doing something and they don't get paid right away, I think reality sets in. You have to pay your bills, car payment, house, etc. But you have to understand the longer you stay in the game, you're building a brand. So I encourage you guys out there the audience, if you're already in the business, stay in the business. It's a phenomenal business. Do it the right way. Don't have any shortcuts. There's a lot of things in this industry is changing. I agree with a lot of it. Some of it I don't, but nevertheless, it's changing. Just evolve, adapt, and adopt in this business. But Brittney, before we get too far into this, I got my Carolina stuff on today because today is a Carolina day. We're in search of a new coach. I'm a big fan of Hubert Davis. I'm sad he's not there, but it's a new day. So we got to go out and get a new coach. And I've got this bottle here because we got to return to championships. This Coke right here is from the Carolina 81-82 national champions. So we're talking off air. Should I open this and drink it? Would that be advisable? No, you wouldn't advise that.
No, you probably have a stomach ache.
I have a stomach ache. Okay, so let's get into it. I want to get into that story real quick. This is out of my own state, Brittney. And again, guys, when we share something like this, I had a comment not long ago. It's like, oh man, you guys shouldn't share bad things that happen to assisted living communities. You shouldn't share the negative. But we're on here talking about real life, and seniors, it's real life. It's this is not make believe, you guys. And there's good things that happen and bad things happen. And so one thing I want to have on this channel, if you guys want to click the subscribe button and hit the bell and all that stuff, I appreciate it. It really helps support us. But beyond that is we want to tell you the truth. And the truth is there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's not always hunky-dory and a bed of roses, right? There's things that go on in assisted living that none of us out there would approve of. And just like any industry, because we live in a world that we live in, there's going to be good people and bad people. That's the only reason we're bringing this kind of stuff up. But I want to show you, this is my own state, not too far away from me, Brittney, about 40 minutes away. And it's in a town called, little city called Porterville. It's in Tulare County. But they had 22 seniors are being relocated. And I guess over the course of 5 years, there's been a lot of complaints, even citations. And I want to say the citations was somewhere north of 40, 50 citations. So it's a lot. But what they found was in this facility, and I won't give the person's name, you can do the research, but right here is what investigators reportedly found inside was alarming bed bugs, cockroaches infesting the facility, and improperly stored food, including, uncooked chicken left in rooms reaching 90 degrees, and allegations of neglect and abuse, and so on and so forth. But I wanted to show you that today, guys, because not every community is a good community. And we've said on this channel ad nausea that not all communities are the same. And I know people want to believe that sometimes, but they're not all the same. And you have to go beyond Google reviews. Maybe in this case, you have to go beyond state reviews, even though they're all on there, but they're still in operation. I don't think a community, Brittney, that has that many citations should be open in the begin with. So what's your viewpoint on that?
I think also it comes to like a senior placement agents. That place might have had a 4.5 stars on Google, and the reviews might have been from 2-3 years ago. I see that a lot of times. Some of the communities that I know are not up to my standards, as I know because I've been in them, have really good Google reviews. They might have 5-star reviews from 2017 or 18. And, families searching on their own, or as new senior placement agents, you might think that's a great place and one that you could recommend to your clients. So I think this points out too how important it is in your area to go visit the communities, because that stuff probably would have not been reported on Google. I know at least in my states, the state reviews don't stay updated, so they're not even reliable. So without going in and seeing that and being able to see the environment, and I'm sure that place did not present well if you were to go in. So I think it just brings up, it's really important to, as senior placement agents, to go scope out your market and make sure you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, and I'm a strong proponent. We talked about off air of having cameras in communities. And I know most of them, if not all of them, have their own cameras, but I've had experiences where, when a situation would arise, the camera suddenly didn't work, it didn't pick up something. And I get the liability issues on the assisted living side, but the peace of mind on the other side, the family side, needs to be able to have some cameras that actually work. So I really am a firm believer that families can be able to put cameras in rooms in place of the community that they can see their loved ones, see what's going on. I know a lot of my communities, and maybe the whole state, I don't know if California, you're not really able to do that. Now, you mentioned there was a state that actually you're able to do that, and talk about the power behind that, because I think it's a level of transparency that needs to be out there. I think people, again, everybody has a bad day. Everybody can get frustrated, and maybe the excuse me, maybe the senior's not cooperating, at the moment, and it's easy to take out your frustrations on someone, right? But I believe when there's cameras around, it's almost like having other people around. You're less likely to do something that's cruel and those kind of things, right? So speak on that situation, Brittney, of, I think you mentioned a state that they're able to have cameras, and what's your viewpoint on that?
They are. Both of my markets are able to have cameras. Most of our clients do decide to put cameras in the room. Couple things, I think it makes caregivers think twice. I think another way, that's like the obvious one, that like you said, somebody is in the room with them. They might take a minute before they take out their frustration, or make a comment in the corner that maybe the senior could hear. I think another thing that people don't think about, it also helps transparency with the family if the seniors aren't able to relay information correctly. So we see a lot of frustration that the families are frustrated. Like, my mom's calling me and saying she hasn't been taken to the bathroom in 7 hours, or my mom's calling and saying that they didn't bring her to breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And sometimes that could be a miscommunication from the senior, whether they're frustrated, they're there, so they're trying to make everything look, a lot worse than it is because they want to go home, or there's some cognitive decline that wasn't exactly clear until they moved in. So I think it also helps the families really realize the care they are getting, not necessarily what they aren't getting.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, you feel comfortable sharing that story you told me off air?
Sure.
Yeah, don't mention names or anything. And this is such a sad story, you guys. And we by no means want to deter you away from going to assisted living. Obviously, that's what we do. But we ultimately, Brittney, myself, and I would hope most of my students, if not all of my students across the country, they don't direct families to certain communities, but we do a great job in vetting communities. We do a great job. No community is perfect by no means. I'm not perfect, not looking for perfection. We're just looking for consistency, looking for trends, things like that. And Brittney told me a story off air that is very distasteful, not from her, but the story itself. And it just breaks my heart. But it's the kind of thing that can happen if you don't vet a community like you should. But Brittney, you want to share that story?
Sure. I think this one, like, I would assume it's coming down to security measures and just oversight and the whole community being aware of who and what is going on in their property. Unfortunately, a community in California had an incident where—
Man, another California one?
Yeah.
Don't go to assisted living in California. My God.
They're having a bad go right now. But
come on, California. Shoot.
Yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, it's a third party, looks like a vendor, like a musician that came into the community on a weekly basis, actually ended up in one of the assisted living or memory care, I'm not sure, but a resident that had cognitive decline, and he actually went into her apartment and undressed himself and sexually assaulted her mom. And because she had cameras in the room, she was able to witness what was going on and get there immediately and call the police. So that is an example that if there was not cameras in the room, hard telling how long that could have gone on for or how many times that would have happened. So that's a really good example of she was able to find out exactly what was going on in the community. And it did look like the community owned up to the lack of supervision and security and what in the know of what's going on in their community.
It's so sad. It blows me away. And I've got a couple of standalone memory cares in my area, and they get a lot of complaints. And unfortunately, there's no cameras outside of the community's cameras. So, you get a situation of a resident in memory care, cognitive decline. I mean, they barely, not all of them probably, but most of them could barely remember what they had for dinner last night, much less what went on last night. And so whenever they get complaints, the downside to both of these, and one of them's a little bit better than the other, but both of them do get a lot of complaints. And it's hard for the family to vouch for what happened, kind of talk to mom or dad because they don't remember, and so a lot of those complaints that come in get dismissed because no one dares to be able to vouch for what happened. So I'm a strong proponent of cameras in the room. I just think it's just transparency. And I think it's, if I was the owner of that community and running that community, I'd be telling my staff, it's a training issue, number one. And number two, guess what? There's an eye in the sky. There's cameras around here that watch your every move. I mean, it happens in other employment, right? I mean, you can't go into a grocery store, whether it be, I don't know, pick your store, Target, wherever you want to go, and there's cameras all over the place. Go in Costco, there's cameras all over the place. And obviously that's looking for theft and things like that, but it's also probably looking at their employees. Are they working and what are they doing? So I just think we need to heighten that up and build that up more in the senior living community. So I applaud that state. You said Missouri, both your states do that? Yeah. I would love to see that. I don't know if, again, and correct me if I'm wrong out there, you guys, I don't know if that's a state law. I just don't see it. And I know that communities around my area just kind of frown upon that. So maybe it is legal in California. I just don't know. If it's not, I definitely would be a strong proponent of getting that going. So, well, Brittney, let's talk about something else too, along with getting into real talk here and talking about assisted living. Question comes to me all the time because assisted living is perceivably expensive, right? And kind of a question would be, is it expensive or are the families waiting too long? And I think it's a little bit of both. Well, my own opinion, I'm kind of answering my question here. I think it's a little bit of both, but consistent living keeps going up, right? And since I started in 2018, I've noticed that where I could actually get somebody into a good shared room in a really good care home between $1,800 and $2,500 a month. Now I can't get them anywhere close unless we get into 35, 38. So in just that amount of time, it's gone up another couple thousand, 1,500, depending on what community it is. And, it becomes stressful. So if you didn't plan for that, I'm sure $1,800 is expensive per month back in the day. And now that same family will be facing $3,500, $3,800 for the same situation. So is it too expensive or typically families just waiting too long?
I would agree. A little bit of both. Most families, at least that we work with in the placement space, or I can speak for myself, is they are waiting for crisis mode where the care level is significantly higher. So in this industry, care equals cost. So they are paying significantly more than what you would be if you came in, early. I mean, there's an argument there. If you go in earlier, you're still paying the assisted living cost. So there's probably an argument both sides of it. So I think it's a little bit of both. I do think that communities have gone up, but at least in my markets, I have seen even the big box communities more willing to negotiate quite a bit. And it could be to the tune of, $1,000 a month off for the rest of their life. So I have seen more of that as the prices go up. Could be because they have to make some wiggle room so people can afford the assisted living. But yeah, I would agree. I think it's both. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just kind of, it's a kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Like you said, if you start taking advantage of the price today, which I know that's not really the perspective of people out there, but get the lower price today versus 5 years from now, you're still paying that amount of money over 5 years. So it's kind of really a challenge. What about
sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, and they go up. I mean, I'm seeing anywhere from 3 to 18% a year. So they're still getting that increase if they live there. I have seen multiple communities go from all-inclusive pricing, so $5,000 flat, to levels of care, and that's bumping people from $5,000 a month to $7,000 a month with no change. So I have seen a lot of that. So even if you get in early, it doesn't guarantee that you lock in that rate.
Man, I would love to see rates locked in. And I know it's awfully hard because, medication varies and, and you get a major uptick in what you have to pay your employees, right? So you go from a minimum wage of $15 to $20. And so I get all that and the business side of it. I'm just more or less thinking of the seniors. I just wish they could be, this is my price. It will never go up. And that's hard, I know. But the national average of a senior in a community is 2 years. I mean, I know we have some that live a lot longer than that, but the average is 2 years. So if the average is 2 years, I would think a community could say, you know what, let's take this base price and already mark it up a little bit for the yearly price, right? And then keep it the same the second year. And that's going to be the average person. And I think that's a way you can kind of lock it in. Now, if they go to third, fourth year, then you just keep there, but you have a resident there. So your occupancy rate stays up. Your census is maintaining. So I don't know. What do you think about that? I mean, is that something they can do Because I think a lot of families, they get caught off guard. You know, they're locked in, let's say $4,000 for the room, and then it's $1,000 for care. So let's say the total package is 5,000. And to your point, 3% up to 18% increase. But I've seen some where, you know, they'll reach out to the families 120 days and go, you know what, mom's care is you know, getting a little more extensive. There's 2 or 3 other ADLs we're having to do now, so we're gonna have to go up X number of dollars per month, and they just invoice them. And I hate that, man. I hate that with a passion. It's almost I don't know. I don't know if there's a solution for it. I just feel for the seniors and their families, because it's such a, you know, big expense, and it's a big burden, not because your mom or dad's a burden. It's just the whole situation is not fun. And now you're hitting them, and the family is a little bit vulnerable because they got their mom already there. They don't want to move mom again. And as you become seniors, you really shouldn't want to move seniors too much anyway. So you're going to do everything you can to keep them there. And I hope that's not part of the motivation of some of the communities that are out there, that once you get them there, you can keep them there. Right. And you can go up on price a little bit. I don't know. The whole thing is really, really hard on families. And I'm just looking at, you know, as the trajectory of this business as a whole and senior living keeps climbing. I don't know. I don't know if the average person can keep up with that price. I mean, we may wake up 5-6 years from now and the average price is $7,000 a month. Can the average person take care of that? If they didn't prepare for it, they didn't get long-term care, anything like that, can they afford that? Can they? And if they can't, then what happens to mom or dad?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I think the big thing about, I've seen people jump from $5,000 a month, and within a matter of, 18 months, they're up to 14,000 a month. I have seen very high price jumps. And on the flip side of that, though, I have seen assisted livings, at least in my areas, they stretch. They're basically doing skilled nursing care. So they are charging about what skilled nursing charges to stay in that home-like environment. So, I mean, it's hard. I know that, at least the point systems I see is how much is the caregiver spending with that resident. And on the bright side of that, I do see the communities that have a point system, they are staffing correctly. So they are staffing based on acuity, not on number of people. So that has been helpful, because you can see, even though it's expensive, you're seeing the family's money go back directly to the care. Whereas if they were staffing just on occupancy, you could have 10 residents that are very high acuity needing a lot of care, not getting that because they're just staffing based on, occupancy as opposed to acuity. So I think there's pros and cons to all of it, but I would agree if we could lock it in. I mean, those all-inclusive models, even if they go up 3 to 5% or 3 to 18% every year, being able to budget and knowing that your monthly rate is not going to go up based on how the care changes, it's a no-brainer for a lot of families. And they do go that route if they can.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Hey, Brittney, real quick, what about senior living communities? Are they, by and large, and again, not all of them, but by and large, are some of them over-promising care that they can't deliver? And I view this from the standpoint of like sales. I had an extensive sales background before I got into senior living years ago. And, you never want a company to do this, but some companies will do. Maybe it's a whatever company it may be, and they're selling something. And it's like they're over-promising what they can actually do, right, to get the deal. Do you think some senior living communities are over-promising care they can't deliver? And again, it's not a full blanket out there, you guys. For audience out there, we're not blaming communities. We love communities. We've got some fantastic communities in our area that don't do this. But I'm thinking about some that do. And the reason I'm thinking about it is because I want to protect the families that are actually wanting to get their mom or dad in certain communities. And you need to do your due diligence. You really need to get, I believe, a senior placement agent like Brittney and myself, or someone in your area is reputable, has been doing it for a while, knows the market and knows these communities. Why it's so important to do this. But what's your viewpoint on that, Brittney, as far as the communities over-promising care they can't deliver?
Unfortunately, more than not, they do. Like I would say the larger communities, I don't have that concern with the care homes as much, or the smaller, even 12 to 40 beds. I would say those communities typically do a good job of not over-promising. But yes, we actually, as a senior placement agent, unfortunately have had to almost under-promise our families on what they're going to get. So we, of course, are guiding them to the right place, but we are almost backtracking sometimes on what the salespeople are saying as far as how much care they can provide. And it even goes to as far as the nurse. I just had a situation 2 weeks ago where they accepted this man with flying colors. We had all the medical records and everything in. The nurse went and did the assessment. He is a 2-person assist, and a large assisted living did accept him, and they were able to based on their license. After the weekend and him not being changed out of his clothes for 3 days, they actually blamed it back on the family and said, well, it's the family's expectations, and he's very heavy care.
Mm-hmm.
So after full throttle accepting him, that never came up with the conversations with the family. Fortunately, we did warn the family that he's heavy care, and going into an assisted living, you might have this experience, and they did word for word what we said, but the community then almost came back on the family and blamed their expectations for being the problem a few days after they accepted him with no issues. So yes, I mean, that's one example of many.
Wow. I think it comes down to, marketing versus actual staffing needs, or staffing levels rather, right? So it's marketing versus actual staffing levels. So it's wanting to, again, it's that sales thing, right? And again, I love sales, you guys. I'm not against sales by no means. What I provided my living for a number of years, but it's just your marketing. And the reason you want to market is you want to get a lot of eyeballs and attention on what you're doing. In this case, the senior living community. And we want to get more tours, and the more tours we get, the more opportunities we can get to get a qualified client in here. So the marketing might not be, might say certain things, and the general public might perceive, hey, oh my gosh, man, this is like a first-class community. They do all these different things. I mean, you can say 3 meals a day. Well, man, if your meals, like I had this one resident we moved not long ago, and they were getting rice for breakfast, rice for lunch, rice for dinner. Well, you can say that's 3 meals a day. Dude, that's not 3 meals a day for me. I love rice. Matter of fact, I love rice, Brittney, even without butter. Just flat out plain white rice. I don't know what it is. It's kind of a thing with me. But, my wife laughs at me. So I'm not against rice by no means. But, man, I don't want it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And as far as like care, and especially like large communities, they talk about care, they might have one caregiver every 12 to 15 apartments. And it's not to blame the caregivers, but they might be short on staff that day. Someone called out sick, or, someone showed up work late, or whatever it may be. And the rotation gets changed around, and your loved one might be seen one time the whole day. And it's not an issue if you're a little more independent, don't have a whole lot of ADLs. But man, if you're wearing Depends and you need to be changed, if you need to be showered, if you need your medication managed, if those certain things you need it. And so that's why you need to know, guys that are out there, that Brittney, myself, and other senior placement agents around this country can help you out with, is that based on the number of ADLs that you have, your loved one has, really dictates where you should go. Like if your loved one is more on the care side, heavy on the care side, you need to go somewhere where they're going to get a lot of attention, a lot of assistance. If they're independent, they don't need that as much. So you can go more for the bells and whistles of activities. It's just a fine line. And I know it's just a hard thing out there, but I just think it really comes down to just the marketing piece, and it's the communities are trying to put their best foot forward. And they say we do all these certain things, and they're not perfect, because I'm not perfect. No one is, but they fall short. And who gets, hurt by that is the senior.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's just a lot of over-promising, under-delivering. And then I would say also, an example, the same thing with that same client, this just speaks volumes. He was a 2-person assist, and the caregiver, not her fault, said, I'm the only one on this floor. So there was no way he would have been able to. And I mean, it was
2-person assist, but I'm the only one on this floor.
And that's within, I'd say 48 hours of this gentleman moving in. And again, it came down to the nursing. It came down from the marketing to the nursing staff acting like he was, no concern that they could take care of his care with no issue. So yeah, we do see it over and over, but I think as placement agents, we have came, and it's unfortunate, but we are almost under promising so they can over deliver. So everybody, it's really a sad thing to do, to have to under promise and make sure that we are being very transparent with the clients. So that way, 48 hours later, they're not calling us and saying that you recommended this great place, and now they only have one person it's their decision at the end of the day, but we guide them and we make sure that we're realistic with them.
Yeah. Hey, we got a comment here from Rebecca. She said, I had a meeting with a family last week. Unfortunately, she really needed assisted living, but only had $2,900 coming in. 2 houses upside down on mortgages. Yeah, that is, Rebecca. That's we got one that we're dealing with right now that she's only got $1,200 a month. And so Crystal and I are going back and forth with that. And there's a possibility on a wild situation that still might happen, but it's really weird. Usually those situations are very sad. And I don't like seeing it. That's only $2,900, right? But dude, that's $3,000 basically a month. You're talking $36,000 for care. I mean, that to me, that's a lot of money. And I know $2,900 is not something we usually can move people, into a community for, but that's just really sad when I see stuff like that. So, man, my heart goes out to you, Rebecca, and your family, and keep plodding along. I know you're doing a great job. So, but Brittney, let me ask you one last question, and we'll cut it. I know there's a lot of things we could talk about, man. We could talk about these real talks. We could talk all day, but for the sake of the time of the video and the audience out there, have you ever toured a community that looked amazing, but when you walked in, something just didn't feel right?
Yes. Yeah. Again, multiple. I think me personally, a lot of it came down to, it wasn't necessarily the salesperson or the marketing. It was almost like a gut feeling. And I know women have gut feelings. They always say that. I just feel like,
very intuitive.
Very intuitive. It was almost a gut feeling. I think when I have had that experience, it's almost like the residents. I almost feel the residents give that aura as well, because I don't see the happy, bubbly, pleasant feeling, even if it has the chandeliers. And I really do believe you feel it from the front desk all the way through the building. I've experienced this quite a bit, and I feel like it starts at the front desk all the way through.
Yeah, there was a time, Brittney, I think I shared a story once before. I walked into a community, and the concierge, the person at front desk, and she was probably just having a bad day, guys. I give people the benefit of the doubt, so not being overly critical, but she was bending down. There was a cabinet down there, and I couldn't really see what she was doing. But when she popped up, she looked at me and says, "What do you want?" She didn't even know me. And she's asking me, "What do you want?" Can you imagine what she says to the senior? That's probably what she was envisioning, probably a senior showing up. And that means that's really how she's addressing the seniors when they go up and ask her something. "What do you want?" That is a bad vibe. And so to your point, that I got an immediate bad vibe on that. It's like, she's talking to me this way. She's talking to everyone else the same way. So it's just one person. Again, it could be a bad day, but you got to go with that, you guys. If you're touring for your loved ones, hear their pitch, see their marketing materials, talk to the people, the marketing director, talk to some different people in the community. But man, especially ladies and men too, I guess, but especially ladies, have your intuitive antennas up. If you feel something that's just a little bit off, either ask a question about it, or it may just be a red flag to say, "Hey, I'm gonna stop and probably go look somewhere else and see what kind of feeling you get." So anyway, hopefully this was helpful for you guys today. If you want to get into the business, you can always click down below and schedule a consultation with myself if you want. Watch a few webinars, and we appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Love coming to you every week. And Brittney, keep doing what you're doing a fantastic job. And we got a lot of really good senior placement agents across the country. I'm super excited about that. And if you want to be a part of this community, you can be a part of it. We'd love to see you. So until next time, God bless.